is that time. We will call this meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Mr. Chairman, we have 7 present and 0 absent, so we do have a quorum.
To rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you everyone for coming out and watching this first meeting of 2013. This is our organizational meeting, and as such, it's the business part of this meeting is quite short, and then we will follow that up with a separate meeting, which is our work session, which will have a number of open-ended discussions. The purpose of this work session, or this business meeting, is to it's an organizational meeting for us to decide what the offices and such things will be represented by this board. To start off, we have a new board member, so on behalf of the entire board, I would like to welcome Yvette Marthaler to the board. Before it's official, Yvette needs to take an oath, so I'll ask her to do that. Never mind.
Including you.
It says for the newly elected, so I guess that means
We're newly elected.
You're newly
too.
elected too?
I have joined Yvette. Yvette, Jerry and I will take the oath, so I guess we can do so together at this time. I do.
Yep.
We have a process for it somewhere.
I just have to refamiliarize myself with the process. So you rise and you go with your right hand. Okay, will you please rise and raise your right hand? And go ahead and recite the oath.
Just read it.
Yep, just go ahead.
I do solemnly.
Hang on, we'll wait for Jerry's doesn't have it in front of him.
There we go.
Okay.
Todd, you say a few words and they repeat.
We can read it now, we're
All
good.
right. Do you want to go ahead and read the whole thing, or do you want me to recite it? All right. Go ahead.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and faithfully discharge the duties of my office according to law and the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God.
Congratulations, you are now board member.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I think Yvette deserves a special welcome on behalf of the board. Maybe a round of applause. Thank you for joining us.
We skipped something though, approval of the agenda.
No,
That came before the recognition and oath.
That's interesting because it's under approval of the agenda. This is really odd right now.
Just flip them around.
I was gonna say.
That's right.
That's okay. We'll approve the agenda after we do the oath. Well, it's okay. So next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
you're off to a good start, Jason.
2013 is off to a banging start, yes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda at this time.
I have one correction. It says election of officers for 2012.
Yep, that should be for
Oh, we have
2013,
2013.
obviously.
Okay.
On the board books is 2012?
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Mine says 2013, but I'll
Okay.
change board.
We'll make sure it's right in official minutes.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this agenda with that small amendment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First item of business is the election of officers for 2013. We'll do this by entertaining motions to nominate members for this. Should we have more than one nomination, we will, well, with one nomination or not. If we have one nomination, we'll vote to approve that nomination. If we have more than one nomination, we will vote on the members who were nominated.
Mr. Chair, I would nominate Jason Ingebret for chair.
We have a motion to nominate Jason Engbrecht for chair of the board. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this matter?
Is there more nominations? Can I nominate somebody?
You're welcome to nominate.
I nominate Tom Casper.
We have a nomination for Tom Casper. Is there a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. All right. Any other further discussion? All right. Hearing none, do we need a roll call for this vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
We'll do a roll call for this vote then, please, Mr. Clerk.
Jerry Robichaud,
Jason, aye.
Richard Olson,
No.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Tom Casper,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Mr. Chairman, it is 6 in favor, 1 against.
All right, thank you. And thank you all. It's been a privilege for the last year to serve as chair on this board, and I look forward to another year working with all of you. Next is the election of the vice chair. I'll entertain motions for nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Tom Casper.
Second,
We have a motion and a second for Tom Casper. Are there any further nominations? Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, if you would please do a roll call.
Jerry Robichaud,
aye.
Richard Olson,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Tom Casper,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Mr. Chairman, 7-0 in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Congratulations.
Thank you all. I'll see if my application to the Joe Biden School of State Vice is,
Oh, no.
will be accepted.
Next up is for clerk. I'll entertain any motions for nominations for clerk.
I would nominate Mr. Howard Bodie for clerk.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second for Howard Bolton for clerk. Any further nominations? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, if you would please take a roll when you're ready.
Jerry Robichaud,
Yes.
Richard Olson,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Tom Casper,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Mr. Chairman, 7-0.
All right. Excellent. It's wonderful having you at my side, Howard, every time we have one of those points of orders. I appreciate that. Now, last is our treasurer. I'll entertain motions for nominations for the treasurer position.
I move to nominate Deb Davis.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the nomination of Deb Davis. Are there any further nominations for the position of treasurer? Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, would you please do a roll call for
Jerry
us?
Robichaud,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Tom Casper,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Mr. Chairman, 7-0 in favor.
Excellent. Thank you all. I look forward to working with all of our new officers and everyone else on the board. Next on our agenda are committee appointments. And I'll start out by making a quick comment related to an email I sent to all of you on Friday to alert you of an idea I want us to entertain. I'm going to suggest to this board that for committee placements for the upcoming 2013 year, that we not place Mr. Olson on any of the committees within the district. This is an unusual move. It's not something I take lightly, and it's not something that the board should take lightly should it choose to do this. Committees within the district are in fact a privilege to serve on and not a right for a board member. And I think to earn that privilege, one needs to show that they are willing to work with others even when they disagree, with a certain amount of respect and for the order necessary to have civil discussions during conversations. I believe that Mr. Olson has unfortunately given us some reason to think that that's not the case during this past year, and therefore I'm going to suggest that he not be on any committees in the upcoming year. With that said, if anybody would like to further comment on that, and then we could go ahead and decide on who would like to be on which committees. Any further comments?
I'll start off that I would like to have the placement in the same committees I have now. I'm representing the people along with all the rest of us represent the people. And for me to not to have a committee appointment or serve on committees, I'm not representing the people. And I'm only on the finance, I think the insurance, and I think the special education task force. That's it.
Any further comments? We can do this one of two ways as I see it. We could set these committees with Mr. Olson's name not on them, and then when we are done, if somebody would like to add an amendment to put his name on there as a separate action, we could do it that way. We could do the reverse and put his name on, and if somebody wanted to offer an amendment to take it off when we approve the ledger, we could do that as well. I don't know if anyone on the board has a preference. My own preference would be to leave the name off, and then should someone make a motion to amend this when we make the motion to approve these committee members, we could do that at that time so that the board can weigh in on this at that time.
Mr. Chairman, what have I done so wrong where you've taken this action? I don't know if this was solely your idea or if you consulted other board members. I mean, just, you know, what, just the committees, what is your problem? Exactly.
Well, Mr. Olson, I think we have a number of times had meetings with you at board in which the board has suggested they were frustrated with the way you conducted yourself in public. When we, on 2 occasions, tried to have a discussion with you about those at this meeting, you walked out of one, and at the other one, you tried to talk over another board member, keeping them from exercising their right to speak at a meeting. Those are actions that go well beyond what I think are appropriate for a board member and are disrespectful to this board and to the community that elected you. That's why I think I'm making this motion.
But again, with the committees, you know, those are, like I said, I'm on the finance and the insurance and on the special education task force. That was, you know, professional meetings, and everything was handled precisely with those meetings. I mean, it's we don't vote at those committee meetings, as you know. We vote at these sessions, and that's where anybody can say anything, you know, pretty much, you know, express their opinion. But to, you know, there's other committees, like, let's say there's a soccer committee, which I was on. That means I can't serve on the soccer committee. Is that what you're saying, yes or no? I mean, when you say committees, what is it?
I said committees, Mr. Olson.
So I
meant all committees.
can't represent the people on the committees whatsoever.
That is what I'm suggesting.
To me, you're violating my rights.
You have no established right to be on committees. It's a privilege that this board decides on.
Mr. Chair, if I can just interject, Mr. Olson, you are representing the constituents in Faribault by serving on the school board. It does not broaden your representation by serving on a committee. So you have the right to vote on anything that comes up for consideration as a full board. So for you to say you're not representing the constituency is not true. You are representing as an elected official that serves on this board.
And I'll respectfully disagree with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's go ahead and assign members to the various committees in front of us. For the Finance Committee, obviously, Ms. Deb Davis will need to be on that committee as treasurer. Howard, you have been on that committee in the past.
I was on last year.
Are you interested in willing to serve on that committee?
I am.
Are there any others with an interest in serving on that committee?
Again, I'll state that I would.
Keep that down. Anyone else with an interest in serving on the Finance Schools for Equity in Education, I'm not sure who has served on that, I didn't bring my list.
I have, and I would welcome the opportunity to continue that, Mr. Chair. So,
On the Insurance Committee, I think that was Mr. Olson in the past, is that correct?
There was two of us.
Yeah, and I was on it as well.
I would like to be on that again.
Do you have any other members who would like to be on that committee?
When does it meet? How often?
Twice a year.
Three times a year, maybe. It's
Does-
usually at 3:30, 3:45 meeting for about an hour.
Yeah, as long as I know far enough in advance, I wouldn't mind sitting on that committee.
Okay. Policy Committee. I believe Mr. Robichaud, you have been on this.
I was on the policy committee, and we should almost be done with the policies, shouldn't we?
We're revamping now and reorganizing the
Surely you
ones
know
that have
better
to
than
be.
Mr. Robichaud.
I asked that question tongue in cheek.
Yes.
Be willing to serve on the policy committee.
There's not as many as when I started, that's for dang sure.
I would be interested in serving on that committee as well. It'd be a good way for me to learn policies.
So currently we have Yvette and Jerry, with willingness to serve on the policy committee. Any other interested parties? Okay, we have a number of cooperative agreements that need representatives. We need one for Alexander Park. Not sure who did that one in the past. Might have been James Wolfe. Is that right? Do we have the word that's lower on the, we're getting there.
I'm sorry, it's not on mine.
It's, it is here,
I could
I
certainly
promise.
fill
Okay.
James' position on that
Okay.
unless someone else has an interest in it.
I think that's wonderful. I have served on the Ice Arena Committee now for 2 years. Happy to do so, and also happy to give another person the chance if there was an interest. Not hearing any, I will put my own name down on the Ice Arena. Soccer Committee, I believe Mr. Olson has been on that in the past.
No, I haven't.
I was not last year.
Okay,
James was.
James was,
You were actually at Alexander Park.
was I Alexander?
Yeah, that's what it said.
Never heard from anybody about that. Interesting. Okay.
Very few.
Would you like to take soccer then?
I'm happy to take soccer. Feel no need or burning desire, so if somebody has an interest in soccer. I will go ahead and put my own name down for soccer. The State High School League,
I was on that last year, and if somebody else wants to go on it, it's fine with me. There's just basically 2 meetings a year that are in Rochester.
do you have a willingness to continue serving?
Sure,
Is there a desire on anybody else's part?
but I'm not, if somebody else wants to, they sure may.
Not hearing any other evidence of interest, I'm going to go ahead and accept Howard Bodie's willingness to serve in that aspect. The Wellness Committee?
I have one question.
Yes, please.
On the last one, or last year, there was the Community Education Joint Powers.
That's no
You have
longer.
a Community Ed Advisory Council now? It's
Okay,
lower
I
in
was,
the-
yeah, I was just
Mhm.
making sure I
Yep.
knew what was
We
going on.
have the equivalent
Okay.
coming up, yep. Wellness
Make sure I can-
Committee, I think in the past, if I'm correct, that was James Wolfe and,
Me.
do you still have a willingness, Ms. Davis?
Sure, we can make that work this year.
Do we have another interested party in serving on the Wellness Committee? Is this another 2 meetings a year?
I think it's somebody who
No,
runs a
there's-
lot would be very good to be.
I agree. Runners are good for that.
Runners are good for the wellness.
We plan on having more meetings this year, correct?
Yes.
I would be happy to serve.
Excellent. Your ability to pick up on our very subtle,
Qualifications and everything.
our subtle hints is an excellent trait, Yvette, thank you. Curriculum Committee, Mr. Casper has served on that for the past year. I actually have an interest in serving on that committee as well. I think 2 board members is certainly appropriate. Are there any other board members with an interest in that curriculum committee? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to put down myself and Mr. Casper. The Superintendent Evaluation Committee. Last year, I asked Mr. Robichaud to lead that committee. Do you still have a willingness?
I would
to
be
do this?
willing to continue in that capacity, yes.
I would also enjoy being on that committee as I was this past year. Mr. Casper was on that committee as
And
well.
I'd also like to continue.
So is there other interest from other board members? If so, we can certainly discuss one of us perhaps making room. Hearing none, I'm going to put down Mr. Casper's name as well. The Community Ed Advisory Council. Mr. Robichaud has been serving on that
And
for
I'll
just a month or 2.
be willing to continue.
There certainly is room for another board member if there's an interest.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be interested in that as well.
Do we have any others with an interest? Okay, all right. We at this time have all the committees filled. Mr. Olson has asked for his name to be considered for the Finance Committee and the Insurance Committee. I would entertain a motion to accept this committee schedule with or without his name on it, as the person making the motion chooses to do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to respectfully move that we allow him to serve on the committees that he's asked to serve on.
So is that a motion
Yes.
to approve? We're gonna take that as a motion to approve this list with Mr. Olson's name on it in those 2 capacities. Okay, is there a second for that motion?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for that. Any further discussion on this?
Could you name the committees that Mr. Olson has served on and has requested an interest in continuing?
Mr. Olson has requested the Finance Committee and the Insurance Committee. Is that right, Mr. Olson?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to speak in favor of this amendment. I think.
The motion you need not.
The motion, yes. And the reason is because I think it's helpful for Mr. Olson to be informed of the Finance Committee and some of the numbers and so forth that we discuss, as well as the insurance. And I don't think it's really probably in our board's best interest to eliminate him from serving on committees. I'm more concerned about ill will being developed, and I like the fact that he's informed of what happens on the Finance Committee.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing no more discussion, we can vote on this motion.
Let's repeat the motion again, please.
So the motion is to approve the committee schedule, as we've discussed, including the name of Mr. Olson on the motion on those committees. And those 2 committees are the Finance Committee and the Insurance Committee.
Okay, we've had, so that would put 3 board members on the Finance Committee, is that correct?
That's true? Yes.
And 3 on the Insurance Committee?
2.
2?
I have 3 names on the Insurance Committee,
Oh.
which would be Mr. Bodie, Mr. Olson, and Ms. Davis.
I already did volunteer for the insurance committee again, but I was on last year. But I had a little trouble making meetings, so I'm open to coming.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have Mr. Bodie's name down, or I just wrote it down?
I
Okay,
didn't
so
have
then,
I didn't have it either.
I didn't hear it, so.
we will, all those, and do we need a roll call on this? No, we do
You
need a
can do
roll
it
call.
either way.
Mr. Clerk, if you would do a roll call on this item.
Jerry Robichaud?
No,
Richard Olson?
Aye.
Yvette Marthaler?
No.
Jason Ingrid?
No.
Deb Davis?
Aye.
Tom Casper?
No,
And I'll vote aye. Mr. Chairman, there are 4 in favor and 3 against.
So the motion fails. This means we need to entertain a new motion to approve committee members for the board. So the board chair will entertain a motion to approve board members for the.
Mr. Chair, could you, it was a 4-3 vote in favor of the motion? Or
I'm sorry, it's a
opposition?
4 to 3, it
In
was 4 to
opposition.
3 in opposition to the motion. I stated it wrong.
So I will not be in any committees.
We haven't finished voting on the committees yet, so I guess I don't know that answer just yet. The motion that included your names failed, that's what I know at this time. Okay. So the board chair will need to entertain another motion related to committees.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the committee assignment as presented, absent Mr. Olson's name.
We have a motion, we need a second for that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the list of board members on committees that we've just discussed, absent Mr. Olson's name. Any discussion on this item?
Just to let you know, I will be attending the meetings, which is my right.
They are public meetings, absolutely, it's your right. All right.
And this is the way you're gonna lead, right, this year? Cutting me out? Is this way, is that what you're gonna do?
That's starting like a personal attack, Mr. Olson, and I'm not going to deem it with a
Okay,
response.
sure.
All right.
You're gonna be working, I think you said in your email that you wanna work with all. Does that include me or not? I just wanna make
Mr.
sure.
Olson, again, I'm not gonna entertain that.
Well, no, you
response.
said an
You're now
email out
simply-
that you
you're
wanna,
now
that you're
simply-
saying that
you're
you wanna
simply
work with
attacking
all
me.
people.
Mr. Olson, this is not gonna pass without a vote of the board, right? You can attack me all you would like, right? But the board
I'm
is
just
going to
looking for
vote
the
on this.
future, you know, you wanna work with everybody on the board, including me, or?
I do wanna work with you, Mr. Olson.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second, if I'm remembering correctly, on this item.
You better state the motion again.
So the motion again is to approve the committee assignments as we discussed, absent Mr. Olson's name.
Are you ready for the vote?
Just a second, want to make sure there's no further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, if you would please do a roll call.
Jerry Robichaud?
Aye.
Richard Olson?
No.
Yvette Marthaler?
Aye.
Jason Ingrid?
Aye.
Deb Davis?
No.
Tom Casper?
aye.
And I'll vote no. Mr. Chairman, it passes 4-3.
All right, motion passes. Thank you all. School board schedule of meetings is next on the agenda. We have a schedule of meetings much like usual. It should be noted that a number of our third meeting of the month meetings have been moved to the fourth meeting of the month in order to avoid some scheduling conflicts with this this room. It should not create any major.
I didn't double check. September, isn't that the one that we usually always mess up still? Columbus Day or whatever.
We went through them, I think we got them this time,
Good.
but, well, there's no guarantee. We think we got 95% of it.
That was the only one I didn't double check.
There are a lot of holidays.
September 23rd is okay.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Only meeting.
All right, so unless there's questions on this, we can move to approve these dates for board meetings.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the dates for the board meetings.
Second? That motion?
We have a motion and a second to approve the dates in front of us for board meetings. Any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is school board salaries. For this past year, salaries for the school board were set at $250 per month and $275 per month for the board chairperson. We can set that to be whatever we would like for the upcoming year. I will entertain any motions or any discussion on this.
Mr. Chair, I would introduce a motion that the board does not accept any salaries for this year.
We have a motion that the board not accept any salaries for this year.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second that the board not receive salaries for this upcoming year. Any further discussion on this item?
I'd like to just state that the reason I'm making that motion is we just went through extensive budget cuts. We're going to deal with a lot of program issues over the course of this next year. And I think we as a board need to step forward and say that whatever dollars we can save from not accepting a salary could be better used providing opportunities for students in the school district. Plus, you don't run for the school board for a salary.
Any other discussion on this item?
I'm not against the motion, but I'm concerned about the precedence that it sets, because I think the reasons Mr. Robichaud gave are always present. And I'm also concerned that it may keep people from running for school board. I don't think that's their primary reason for running, but it could be a hardship for some people. But I will support this.
I'd like to say I support the motion. We are facing drastic program cuts that are unprecedented in my almost 40 years in this district. The money saved by reducing school board salaries is not enough to make any major difference in the impact of those cuts. But whatever can be done should be done, in my opinion. And I certainly support the idea of service without remuneration for this year, and recognizing that circumstances may change. That's hopefully they change, but until they do, I feel that my accepting a salary that in any way further diminishes the opportunities for our students is inappropriate.
Any other discussion on this item?
I will be opposing this. I think we should be paid something for our time, even though it's very, very minimal. But I was just wondering if we're saving money, if this is gonna be carried over to the upcoming, staff negotiations. You know, if we're gonna sacrifice this, are there gonna be some sacrifice on the other side? It's just a question. That's all.
Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said on that side of the table. For the most part, that anything that we can do to help our kids is what we need to do.
And I would agree as well.
Any further discussion? All right. I agree as well. I absolutely will be supporting this motion. I do want us to be cautious in the future. I think that the caution that Howard gives us about the precedent that it sets is appropriate. We are a professional board, and as such, it would be standard for us to be paid. I'm happy to forego that salary for all the reasons that have been said. But on a long-term basis, I think we have an obligation to make sure that the board is recognized as a professional organization. And so long-term, I want us to think about that as we move forward. But without question, I will be supporting this motion tonight.
Just one comment, I respect where Mr. Bodie is coming from, where you articulated some of the concerns, Howard, I appreciate that. And it is not intended to be precedent, it says different economics, different situation, different outcome. But I certainly respect that, and I'm not sure that if we don't get any kind of a stipend, it would minimize the quality of people that will run for the school board, but I certainly respect where you're coming from, very much so.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Bodie, would you please do a roll call?
Jerry Robichaud, you wanna repeat the motion?
The motion is, why don't we phrase it this way? The motion is to set the salaries for the school board for the year of 2013 at $0.
Okay, Jerry Robichaud,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
No.
Yvette Marthaler,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Tom Casper,
Aye.
and I vote aye, Mr. Chairman. It passes at 6-1 in favor.
All right, thank you all. School assignments. Every year, members of the school board are assigned to the various schools, places of learning throughout the district. The level of involvement that board members have had with those schools, I know, has varied greatly depending upon the board member and their level of interest. But I think it's a positive thing and a positive opportunity for us to familiarize ourselves with the schools and get to know the entire district. So with that, we can go through this list. And as we go down it, I think anyone with an interest in serving at a school should say so. Maybe we could start, sometimes we just go down the list. We could start with any request for particular schools, should anyone have them.
Mr. Chair, will I be allowed to adopt a school, or am I not allowed to go to any of the schools?
I'd
Could
be
you
happy
clarify
to-
that?
I'd happy to be, personally, can't speak for the board, personally, I'd be happy to see you having a school assignment.
Mr. Chair, I'd be interested in the McKinley Early Childhood Center and the Cannon River Education Center assignment.
All right.
Can I stick with my middle school unless somebody else really wants it?
Is there another interest? Hearing any? Any other special requests?
I would be very much interested in working with the Area Learning Center.
Other requests?
I would love to stay at the high school.
I'll stay at Jefferson.
That gives,
You and I,
you and I, Lincoln and Roosevelt, should we flip for it?
Go ahead. I'll take what's left. I'd be happy to serve at either Lincoln or Roosevelt.
I'm gonna put my name down for Roosevelt,
Okay?
and your name down, Mr. Mr. Bodie's name down for Lincoln Elementary.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion on any of those? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Did we have a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. We need a motion to approve this list of assignments. I have Jerry Robichaud for Jefferson, Howard Bodie down for Lincoln Elementary, myself, Jason Engbrick down for Roosevelt Elementary, Richard Olson down for the middle school, Deb Davis down for the high school, Tom Casper down for the Area Learning Center, and Yvette Marthaler down for McKinley Early Childhood Center and the Crack Cannon River Education Center. I will entertain a motion to approve that list of appointees.
I so moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this.
Just a question, Mr. Chair. We had some discussions about this past year, and if we could have a little more clarifying what it is that we're supposed to be doing as liaisons with those buildings. I know that it's a communication link, but are there other expectations that the principals might have for us as board members to be their liaison? For me, sometime in the near future, Todd, we could have that laid out by the principals.
And what I've done, what I've seen in the past or have seen done is the secretaries or Kathy would help set up a day for each one of you, work with you with your calendar and see if you can come down and visit one of the buildings so you get used to the buildings and surroundings. We'll do that.
Thank you.
I have a request that, is it possible, I think it's technically possible to be included on the school announcement emails and so on that go out to staff members at those particular facilities.
I think.
Is that,
Do they have that already?
Is
I
that
mean,
something-
Is it on district news or CRC news?
There's individual newsgroups, like middle school news,
Yeah.
high school news.
That's where I look all the time, Tom. I just go to those different areas.
Whether you board members have access to those is a different story.
well,
Oh, they don't.
I guess
If
that's,
you're in a particular building, if you're representing a particular building, say, what do you represent, what are you gonna represent?
well, I'm gonna be working with the Area Learning Center.
Well, then you would probably need ALC.
If I could get
Yeah.
on their listserv and just routinely get the announcements, it would help me kind of keep my finger on the pulse, so to speak, and might raise some questions that I could contact administrators about or go out and investigate if I was concerned.
It's a good idea. We'll get each of you assigned those different listservs for each of the buildings so you can see what messages are on there. You have to check them regularly because they add up really, really fast. So,
All right, any other questions on this item? We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
you can almost get all the listservs. Same exact.
All right. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Thank you all. I'm shuffling pieces of paper here and I've lost my agenda.
Oh, here.
I've got it, I've got it. All right. Next is to consider the approval of the Faribault Daily News as the official publication source for the Faribault Public Schools. We do this every year. We're required by law to publish certain things in a local news outlet that is appropriate. And so we have chosen the Faribault Daily News as the most appropriate local news outlet for those items which we are required to and want to bring out to the public. Any discussion or questions on this item? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
Let's do a roll call vote.
And the motion is?
The motion is to approve the Daily News as the official publication source for the
Faribault
Faribault
Daily.
Public Schools. For the Faribault Public Schools.
Faribault Daily News, yes. Because
did I
they-
say?
You just said
Official
daily
publication.
news.
I'm sorry, yep. The approval of the Faribault Daily News as the official publication source for the Faribault Public Schools.
Can we hear Mr. Olson's reason?
Mr. Olson, would you like to?
No, I don't think I'll
Expound on it?
comment on that, Howard.
Okay,
Do you have a proposed alternative?
we have to have one.
I'll vote when we take a vote, and that's my comment.
Okay.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
Jay Robichaud,
Aye.
Richard Olson,
No.
Pat Marthaler,
Aye.
Jason Ingrid,
Aye.
Deb Davis,
Aye.
Don Casper.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I vote aye. It is 6-1 in favor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next is the approval of the local education agency representative. Todd, do you want to tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, a lot of the grants that we apply for, particularly the Title I grants, we need to have a board-approved local education representative. And normally that's your curriculum director. In this case, I would suggest that we have Colleen Cardenuto be our local education agent.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So I'm going to make a small suggestion here for that motion and a second to clarify. The motion as it reads in the memorandum says the Director of Teacher and Learning
Oh,
as the
sorry.
superintendent's designee to act as a local education agency representative. I make the suggestion that we phrase that the Director of Teaching and Learning rather than Colleen, so that should there be any turnover in that position is what is the representative. So I wanted to make that small clarification, if that's appropriate to all those making motions. Yes, okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the Director of Teaching and Learning as the LEA representative. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that is our agenda for the organizational part of this meeting. I thank you all, and we'll call this part of the meeting adjourned. Sorry, we need a motion to adjourn? Okay, so, sorry. First time ever I decided to skip that. Although, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned. All right. We are not, however, done. We have a work session we need to go to, so I'll call the work session to order. I'm going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance as we already did that tonight. Apparently we will pass the sweets one more time.
Fortify ourselves.
For those who might not be familiar with board meetings and why we've just adjourned one meeting and called to order another meeting, the board has 2 meetings per month. The first meeting is typically the work session, and the second meeting is our business meeting. But for the, and we can only take actionable actions at business meetings and not at work sessions. So we don't vote on things at work sessions. For the very first meeting of the year, however, we have the items that we have to take care of, which you just saw. And so we handle those at that time. And now we'll adjourn into our regular work session. So there will be no actions taken at this work session, but we have a number of important items to discuss. Informational items, discussion on priorities for adding back programs if new revenue comes to the district. Todd, do you want to walk us through that discussion?
Sure. And I don't have a lot on the strategic planning. I think we're kind of waiting to our February date for us to convene to talk a little bit about that for our board retreat. So we'll let you know a little bit more on the strategic plan and how it goes. The discussion of priorities for adding back programs if new revenue comes to the district. We don't know exactly what the legislature is going to do. And it could be $0, it could be $600,000, it could be $4 million, are all the numbers that are out there. And what we have to start thinking about is the $1.6 million worth of cuts that were enacted back in September, and decide if revenue does come in, what programs would you like to bring back? And that was something that we were very clear about before the operating levy failed, is that if there is new revenue, then we would look at a priority list of what to bring back. Obviously, if we had the full $1.6 million, my recommendation would be to bring all of them back. But I don't know if that's realistic. We did get a little bit of, well, we did get some money with our compensatory aid that I believe almost, when we talked prior to this whole thing, our primary grades were very, very, we tried to protect them as much as we could, but during the process to get to the $1.6 million of reductions, we ended up going all the way down to second grade and cutting 3 staff members. So is our suggestion that we would bring back those 3 staff members. To me, it was something that made a lot of sense to not have 35 kids in the second grade classrooms, to at least add 1 teacher in each of those different buildings. Now that's compensatory, and we pretty much know what we have with compensatory now. The only other variable out there is the state aid and maybe some federal aid. You've heard about the sequestering with the federal, now it's the expenditure cliff, I guess, if you want to call it that, or the, what's the cap called that they're calling it at the federal level now? The debt ceiling, thank you, and the debt ceiling. Both of those 2 pieces are part of that potential sequestering, where we could actually lose some of our federal dollars for our title programs. So we've got a little bit of that to worry about, but I think for the most part, if we set that aside, if we're looking at the state aid potential and we end up with some state aid in April or May, then I'd like to know what the board, or how the board feels about the various programs. We certainly have elementary classrooms that are going to be very large. We have middle school classrooms that are going to be large, high school classrooms. We also have the orchestra program, which is very important to kids, the native program, which is, all these programs are very important to kids. But we don't have enough money to support these programs, and there's no other places that was on that list that was designated as cuts. So with that, that's kind of where I'd like to start the discussion, and maybe not, you don't have to be specific now, but talk about process and how you want us to get there, and what sort of feedback you want to get from staff and community members. You already have a sheet of paper that I gave you from a community member regarding the music programs. So how would you like us to begin this process? Just getting some feedback.
And just to clarify for everyone, we're not making any decisions tonight about what the priorities would be. We're really talking about how we want to approach that and be prepared for the event that the amount of money coming into the district is different than we could have known 4 months ago from state and federal sources.
How soon will it be, do you think, before we know something?
I would say the very earliest is end of April would be probably the logical timeline, and more likely probably end of May.
So, is it premature for us to give indications now to the public where we may be thinking about adding back?
Well, I think to get the exact programs and where those priorities are, I think it's a little early. So that's why I said maybe a process in place right now might be something we should consider. And just as a suggestion, maybe you want a group of individuals, some community members, to have some input and feedback on where those priorities would be, understanding that these cuts are already enacted. It only will come back if there's new revenue to support that from the state.
So the people that we're cutting will have been given their notices?
Yes.
And
Yep.
may have gone on already?
Yeah, that's already, yeah, and that, we have to wait till after February for that, because we don't know about the leaves of absences yet, and we don't know where all the various bumping is going to occur in our district. So right now, most of that has been figured out, and the principals have talked